We're talking about the fundamentals of sync licensing with Jonathan McHugh and Nick Woolard. What would you say an artist should not do when they're negotiating a license?
Part of it is around building credibility and trust, because it's not just about extracting maximum value from that one deal, but it's also around your ability to build a career or to build a relationship with an important stakeholder. So one of the things that would seem really important to me is to not pull the rug from under anyone's feet. So the idea of kind of changing terms or pulling out at the last minute, or declaring that there are different writers that weren't originally on the list when you were first talking about the deal. I think it's that ability to be trustworthy and transparent with the people that you're dealing with. But Jonathan, I'd be interested to hear your take on that in terms of, have you ever encountered any of those situations where the goalposts have been moved late in the day?
I'm coming off a thing recently where, so recently, that a hip hop artist that we had one line of dialogue from in a show, verbally kind of approved on text, couldn't get the guy to sign a piece of paper for 3 months. Then all of a sudden his lawyer got into it after we sent him a note saying, hey, need to get this done. Don't think we'll be using any of your music for the next season, for this season. He sent back an offer that was 3 times the amount. So I just sent back a scathing letter to them and said, yeah, we'll pay this amount if that's what you want, but we're not using your music anymore, ever. And so then I got a response from the publisher saying, we'll come back with a counter offer. So it's like that kind of shit just doesn't resonate well. And so that person, if I can never use that person again, they're done with me. So it's a cautionary tale of, if you can't get yourself together, and this artist is not a household name by any stretch. If the artist is a household name, you have to suffer those slings and arrows necessarily of dealing with that if you really want that copyright. But so yeah, it's artists need to have themselves buttoned up to and be handled by the right people. Had that person just let the publisher deal with it, it would have been fine, but they wouldn't sign the document that they needed to sign, and the publisher couldn't sign on their behalf. So that was a miss on all of their parts, because now you're less likely to use that artist for sure, and not like you would shy away from the publisher because they weren't really controlling it, but to me they certainly didn't handle it well.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that, would you say that it's better for artists to license many small tracks for smaller amounts and then leverage those wins, or just wait for that big white whale?
No, there's no such thing as a big white whale. As you know, nobody's really seen them since the book Moby Dick came out in the 1800s, and nobody's even confirmed that happened. So Herman Melville might have seen one, but that's a long time ago now. So no, I explained to artists like, that's not enough money. I was like, really? Because that's $500 more than you had yesterday. And you can also take that piece of music marketing and piece of placement and market it. So take the money. Don't be precious. Maybe you are getting ripped off. It's all relative. How much would you pay them to put your music in so that you could market yourself around that show? What's that worth to you? And so you got to flip the mentality on people sometimes, but people just don't know. So that's a big problem too. So this is why these things that you guys do to educate people are super important for young artists out there, because again, the good news for us is that we don't necessarily care what you look like, who you are, where you live. It's how good is your music, how good does it fit into our programs, and how easy are you to deal with. One of my class I taught last semester, one of my supervisors, Amanda Krieg Thomas, had a great slogan in her book, which she wrote, which I used as a textbook, and it was, be an effing pleasure to deal with. And my students that was like the one thing, the biggest takeaway for the whole year. And I thought it was a great takeaway, because this guy I just referenced before was not that, right? He was not a pleasure to deal with. He was 18 texts over 3 months to get that thing back. It's exactly what I'm not looking for. You know what I mean? It's quintessential example of what we do not need.